Standing still, she closed her eyes, recalling the sensations of the latest crime scene, the cold, metallic tang of blood, the sharp scent of burnt rubber mingling with fear. She gripped the table, nails digging into polished wood, the tension visible in her every muscle. But it was the overwhelming imprint of terror etched into the hearts of the victims that unsettled her the most, a relentless echo she could never quite silence. Tonja? Enzo Arnaud's voice sliced through the silence, pulling her back from the precipice of her thoughts. She turned to find him leaning against the doorframe, his brow furrowed, dark curls tousled ever so slightly. "You all right?" She forced a smile, but even she could hear the crack in it. "Just processing." He stepped inside, the air shifting between them, charged with a blend of tension and concern. "Processing? Is that what we call it now?" His tone carried a trace of mockery, and she found herself laughing, though it felt brittle. "Yes, processing is definitely what we call hyperventilating over crime scenes and conversations with ghosts," she quipped, attempting levity to mask the unease that weighed upon her. His chuckle, however, was too immediate. It sent a flutter of warmth through her, scrapping her light-hearted veneer. "Ghosts? You should have led with that." He approached her, the faint sound of his shoes against the wooden floor echoing like a heartbeat, steady and reassuring. "Want to talk about the one that haunted you today?" Tanja's heart took a leap, not entirely sure if it craved the intimacy or feared it. "I don't know, Enzo. Conversations with you usually lead us down rabbit holes. Maybe this time we avoid the rabbit holes." His gaze bore into hers, an intensity that could ignite flames. "You know I'm here for you, right? Here for me?" She folded her arms, her protective armor. "Right until the moment anything gets too real, right?" The electricity crackled between them, the history of unspoken words stretching like an invisible thread. "Real?" Enzo's voice was a whisper now, tantalizing and teasing, like secrets begging to be spilled. "You mean like the real behind what's going on with you? The psychic visions? Or is it something else? Something I can't see?" "Maybe it's both. Maybe it's everything." Her breath hitched. Shadows of vulnerability danced through her, daring him to see beyond her walls. "I'm tired of being the only one who knows what's going on in my head, but every time I try to share, I'm afraid of what I'll lose." "Tonja," he said, reaching for her hand, warm and steady against her cool skin. "You won't lose me, but you're not alone either. You don't have to carry this weight by yourself." At that moment, the air thickened with longing and something unnameable. The underlying tension swirled, pulling them closer. She sensed the longing crackling between them like static in the air. Enzo's eyes dropped to their intertwined fingers, which held the weight of promises unspoken. "I know you want to protect me, but we're in this together." His voice was a low rumble, each word whispered like a prayer. "Let me in, please." Her resolve cracked. "You don't know what you're asking for." Her voice trembled, laden with uncertainty ripe from past wounds. The onslaught of doubt tore through her like wind through trees, leaving her exposed. "I'm asking for you, Tonja," he urged softly. "The real you." There it was, a bridge formed in their vulnerability. In that moment of surrender, Tonja felt an unshakable sense of power surge through her. She could show him all of it. "Then wait for me," she said, her voice steadier. "I'm not there yet, but maybe I can try. Together." For a heartbeat, the world outside faded into the background, leaving just the two of them pulsing with unexpressed delights. With that understanding hanging between them, doubt faltered ever so slightly, and the city beyond their glass fortress flickered with the promise of new beginnings and the looming shadows of their past. Words unspoken thrummed vital and raw. "Always together," he echoed, his grip tightening softly, sealing a pact of their own. Scene 32, the sting operation. The rain fell in heavy sheets, drumming against the windows of the dimly lit war room, where Agent Coleman and Enzo Arnaud were strategizing their next move against the crime syndicate that loomed like a dark cloud over the city. Outside, flashes of lightning illuminated the night, casting flickering shadows across the stark walls and stirring a palpable unease among the assembled team. The air crackled with electric anticipation. You could almost taste the tension, sharp and metallic, like pooling rainwater on asphalt. Tonja paced, her tall frame slicing through the gloom, her footsteps echoing against the concrete floor. She was a force of nature, exuding an energy that commanded attention. Her dark curls fell around her face, damp from the relentless rainfall, contrasting with her determined gaze. Each gesture was deliberate. She radiated a readiness to unleash chaos upon their enemies. Enzo, I hope you're ready for tonight. This operation is going to push us to our limits, she said, glancing back at him. His presence behind the table was steady, grounding, yet the closeness of the impending sting operation created a tangible tension between them. We've prepared for worse, Enzo replied smoothly, running a hand through his slicked back hair, showcasing his sharp features in that moment of revelation. His voice was low, almost a rumble above the storm outside. This isn't just another case, Tonja. It's about sending a message. The air between them felt charged, filled with words unsaid and intentions heavy enough to drown in. If we take down their hub tonight, we deal a blow they won't recover from. But we'll need to trust each other completely, Tonja said, her gaze locking onto his with an intensity that sparked a fire in her belly. It was more than just strategy. It was their lives intertwined in the heat of the moment. He stepped closer, the space between them shrinking until they were almost touching. The scent of his cologne, a rich, smoky cedar, wrapped around her, making her heart race for reasons both thrilling and alarming. I trust you. A fierce sincerity burned in his eyes, and for a second the storm outside and their mission faded into a background hum. All right then, she breathed, her pulse racing in time with the storm. Let's execute this flawlessly. Across the room, Rosie Santana emerged from the shadows, her arms crossed, a smirk playing on her lips. I can't believe you two are still flirting when you should be focusing. The fate of the city is at stake, not your romantic inclinations. Tonja chuckled, breaking the momentary tension, her lips curling upward. Good to see you too, Rosie, but don't think you can distract us with your sass, she retorted, her playful energy returning. Wouldn't dream of it. Just here to remind you that the last time we went undercover, you convinced that bartender at O'Sullivan's to let us hide in the back. Keep that up, and we might just be extricating ourselves from a tight spot later. Rosie winked, her laughter infectious, and a balm on the nerves ratcheted tight by the impending operation. As plans unfolded around them, assembling into a concrete blueprint for success, the proposal of the sting operation filled every crevice of the room with a sense of purpose. Yet, every moment they spent near one another, a brush of a shoulder, an accidental touch, laced their collaboration with a dangerous undercurrent. Remember the route, Enzo interjected, slicing through the levity. We'll approach under the cover of darkness. In and out quick, no heroism. We're finding evidence, not engaging. Got it, Tonja replied, a flicker of frustration crossing her features. But if we find ourselves needing to, I won't hesitate. I'd expect nothing less from you, he said, his voice smoothing the edge of her resolve. The door opened suddenly, and Ishmael Devereaux entered, his presence instantly drawing attention, like a king arriving at court. Are we really considering this? Rushing in where angels fear to tread? His dark gaze met Tonja's, a challenge lingering right behind it. They'd do the same to us, Tonja snapped back, unfazed. Besides, it's not just about us. It's about everyone suffering under their rule. I admire your conviction, Ishmael said, leaning against the doorframe, arms crossed, but just be sure the ones you're fighting for understand that too. The moment grew thick with unspoken truths, shadows of the past lurking just beyond their grasp. Let's move, Tonja urged, swapping the tension for focus, invigorated by the looming storm outside. She turned back, her gaze softening for a heartbeat as she exchanged a look with Enzo, the silent acknowledgement of their bond anchoring her. As they prepared to embark on the mission that would shift the scales of power in the city, the pulse of the storm outside danced with the beating of their hearts, a prelude to the chaos yet to come, an exquisite dance between love, trust, and the fights that awaited them. Together, then? Enzo murmured, his voice a low whisper meant only for her ears. Always, she replied, the storm intensifying as they stepped into the unknown. Scene 33. Into the lion's den. The evening air buzzed with the fading chatter of city life, but in the dimly lit car outside, the lair, an upscale nightclub that was a front for the city's most dangerous operations, Tonja Coleman felt the pulse quicken in her veins. The hazy neon sign flickered sporadically above the entrance. illuminating the faces of patrons obliviously slipping into the lion's den. Ready? Enzo Arnau's low voice sliced through the tension, a blend of confidence and something deeper simmering just beneath the surface. He reached out and brushed a loose strand of Tonja's hair behind her ear, a gesture both tender and charged. Tonja nodded, her heart racing not just from the thrill of the impending operation, but from the magnetic pull she felt towards him. She could almost feel his unspoken words pressing against her skin, a warmth that was almost unbearable. Stick to the plan, she reminded him, pushing aside the apprehension swirling in her stomach. We go in, gather intel, and get out. Easy for you to say, he smirked, his dark eyes dancing with mischief. You weren't the one who suggested we crash the party. Tonja felt a smile tug at the corners of her lips, the tension easing slightly. Crash the party? You were the one bumping the music on the way here. Thought you could use a warm-up. His smirk widened, and for a fleeting moment, the shadows of their surroundings disappeared. But the weight of their mission rushed back, overpowering that brief spark. They stepped out into the thrumming atmosphere of the club, the bass thumping beneath their feet as they made their way to the entrance. The bouncer, a hulking figure with an unfathomable expression, flicked his eyes over them, suspicious but ultimately unimpressed. Names, he barked. Shay and Victor, Enzo said without missing a beat, effortlessly slipping into the facade they had rehearsed. The bouncer sized them up, his gaze lingering on Tonja's silhouette, which struck an unnerving balance between grace and strength. Move along, he grunted, stepping aside. As they cascaded into the club, the mingling scents enveloped them. Sharp notes of cologne, sweat mingled with alcohol, and the sweetness of cheap perfume wafting through the air like a siren song. Tonja felt the dissonance of her dual existence as an undercover detective and a woman grappling with insistent feelings. She subtly adjusted her blazer, hoping to cloak both identities. 2 shots of whiskey, neat, Enzo said to the bartender, barely glancing at the array of glimmering bottles. You know that'll just cloud our judgment, right? Tonja replied, already feeling the heat of the whiskey in anticipation, but not ready to admit it. Judgment is overrated tonight. Enzo grinned, lifting the glasses and clinking them together before tossing back his drink. Tonja followed suit, the warmth flooding her senses. Keep your wits about you, she warned, eyeing the shadows creeping along the edges of the club. A group of men with hard faces were steeped in laughter, their camaraderie dangerous and loud. Something doesn't feel right, Tonja murmured, scanning the room. Just a beat too late, her instincts flared. The sky-darkened projector flickered, and in a moment's breath, the ambiance shifted. Enzo caught the tension threading through her posture. Let's move, he urged, slipping his fingers around her wrist, the warmth of his skin igniting her awareness. As they navigated through the crowd, a clash echoed from the back of the club, igniting alarms in Tonja's mind. She stopped, but Enzo pulled her forward. We shouldn't. It's a trap. There was no need for further explanation. Before she could catch her breath, a cacophony erupted. Patrons shrieked and scattered as 2 figures erupted from the shadows, weapons drawn, suppressing chaos with a murderous intent. Go, Enzo shouted, adrenaline pumping through them both. They ducked behind a pillared column just as a barrage of gunfire split the air. Tonja's instincts roared to life, and she felt the echo of her past course through her. She grabbed Enzo's arm, feeling the tension in his muscles. Their eyes met, fierce and determined, a promise of survival entwined in the storm brewing between them. This is not how I envisioned our night out, Enzo hollered, attempting a strained laugh amid the gunfire. I find the ambiance lovely, Tonja shot back, edging further into the safety of the shadows. As they descended deeper into the chaos surrounding them, the emotional weight between them thickened, each breath saturated with the urgency of their connection. Amid the whirlwind, their fingers brushed against one another, igniting a firestorm of unspoken desire and camaraderie forged in battle. In this together, Enzo said, his voice husky, and for a moment the gunfire dulled as their world shrunk down to that singular moment. But the operation had gone awry, and as they prepared to fight for their lives, Tonja knew this night would compel them closer to the truth and to one another. Scene 34. Parallel Investigations. The rain drums steadily against the pavement, each drop a tiny bomb in the simmering tension of the city night. Tonja Coleman stands under the flickering glow of a street lamp, her fists clenched as she watches the downpour create a blur of luminous puddles. The air is thick with the scent of wet asphalt and fear, a sense that something critical is about to break. "Damn it, Enzo," she snaps, spinning on her heels to face her partner, Enzo Arnaud. Her dark eyes flash, mirroring the lightning that jaggedly splits the sky. Enzo, tall and brooding with a light sheen of rain clinging to his defined features, runs a hand through his wet hair, frustration simmering just beneath the surface. "You think I'm not doing everything I can? We're running out of time." "Time? You think that's the issue?" She steps closer, reducing the space between them to a mere breath. The sizzling electricity in the air isn't just from the storm. "I know you've been withholding information, Enzo. It's not just about the case." Before she can finish, a thunderous clap sends them both into silence. A few blocks away, shadows flicker, whispering of other lives entwined in deceit. "Look," Enzo said, dropping his voice to a rare softness, "I'm doing this to protect you." "Protect me?" she scoffs, incredulous. "By lying to me?" Her heart races, not from fear, but from an anger that, deep down, conceals an even deeper vulnerability. Nearby, laughter erupts from the cozy interior of Lila's cafe, where the rest of their ragtag team has gathered. Inside, Rosie Santana swirls a spoon in her coffee, exchanging playful barbs with Ishmael Devereaux, who regards her with a cryptic smile. Beneath their banter lies a current of unspoken tension, the air thick with unresolved questions. "You think your secrecy acts like a shield?" Tonja continues, her voice rising over the din of rain. She gestures toward the cafe, where their allies aren't immune to the storm brewing outside, each lost in their respective struggles. "We're all in this together. How many times do I have to spell it out for you?" Enzo's jaw tightens. "What if something happens? That info. It's going to drive me insane." Her voice trembles with the force of their argument, and others inside the cafe begin glancing their way, drawn to the spectacle of the two formidable figures locked in combat. In the cafe, Ishmael exchanges a knowing look with Rosie, whose curiosity peaks as she leans in closer. "Think they'll kiss or kill each other first?" she jokes with a smirk, but Ishmael's expression remains stoic, reflecting his own inner turmoil. "Tonja," Enzo growls, stepping forward, "if you want to chase the danger head on, fine. But don't ever think that you're alone in this. I'm in this together with you. Don't forget it." Not backing down, she flicks rain droplets off her shoulders like shields against the gunfire of his words. Their eyes lock, breaths mingling like the tempest around them. "I can handle myself, and I don't need you rehashing some pathetic hero complex. I need," she pauses, an unfamiliar ache pressing in on her chest, "partnership." "Okay," Enzo says softly, the edge of hostility blurring with something softer. "Partnership." The tension morphs. Moments stretch, souls reaching like strands of intertwining vines. The raucous laughter from Lila's cafe fades into the background, a world apart, as the winds howl. A few blocks over, Rosalind Hale's dark silhouette emerges from a shadow, her own plot thickening. She gazes back at the cafe, catching sight of Ishmael, a chill running through her. The secrets she guards will fracture lives if uncovered. "Lies are at the heart of this game, aren't they?" she mutters to herself, her fingers tracing the edge of a hidden locket. Back outside, the storm picks up, wrapping Tonja and Enzo in a whirlwind of rain-soaked desire and unspoken truths. Tonja fights the impulse to step into his arms while the city holds its breath. "Let's not let this blow us apart. We stand together," she says quietly, an invitation wrapped in defiance. Enzo shifts closer, water pooling at their feet, and for a heartbeat, it's not the storm that engulfs them, it's the fierce connection they can no longer deny. "Together," he confirms, the promise lingering on the brink of something more. The parallel investigations intertwine like their fates, a potent mix of danger, discovery, and the intoxicating thrill of what's uncharted. The storm rages on, an echo of their tumultuous hearts, the dance of emotions just beginning. Scene 35, Crossing Paths. Tonja leaned against the brick facade of the cafe, her heart racing, not from the morning's cool breeze that rolled off the nearby waterfront, but from the surge of emotions brought forth by the sight of Lila and Fiona. The laughter and perfume of shared memories hung in the air like the overly sweet scent of a lingering cocktail. She hadn't seen them since her runway days, and now their sudden reappearance felt like a warm light flickering in a memory she thought had dimmed forever. As she glanced down the street, Enzo approached, his confident stride punctuated by a slight furrow in his brow, something that had become all too common between them lately. Tonja felt an urge to reach out and melt the distance between their hearts, but the laughter drifting from Lila and Fiona clawed at her, pulling her back to a time before she traded her heels for detective's boots. "What's going on?" Enzo asked, sliding to a stop beside her, his tone steady, but the pulse in his voice hinted at concern. "They're back," Tonja replied, nodding in the direction of her former friends, who were now having coffee like it was any other day. One look at Lila's perfectly styled hair and Fiona's effortless smile, and Tonja felt a pang of self-doubt. The last time she had seen them, she had been footloose and fancy-free, a different person entirely. "You okay?" Enzo's eyes, usually filled with mischief, betrayed an unfamiliar vulnerability. He leaned in closer, his shoulder brushing against hers, igniting sparks that traveled to her fingertips. Tonja shook her head slightly, feeling the wall she'd built creeping back up. "Just fine," she replied, her voice punctuated by the heat rising in her cheeks. Her gaze returned to Lila and Fiona, where a new round of laughter erupted, familiar yet alien. "Fine," he echoed, the word laced with skepticism, as he crossed his arms. "You know you can talk to me, right?" There was an earnest yearning in Enzo's eyes, an invitation wrapped in hesitation, but Tonja felt it slipping through her fingers. Before she could find the words to respond, Fiona caught sight of Tonja, their gazes locking like two magnets drawn together, but fraught with unresolved tension. "Tonja, it's been too long," Fiona exclaimed, her arms opening wide like wings. Tonja fought against the instinct to retreat, but found herself stepping forward, drawn into a hug that felt simultaneously warm and suffocating. "Hey, Fiona," she managed, her voice a whisper against the woman's long, flowing mane, the scent of designer perfume hitting her like a memory. Enzo stood back, scanning the reunion with a mix of skepticism and annoyance. Lila joined in, her sharp eyes flitting back and forth between Tonja and Enzo, speculation painted across her features. "So you finally found someone to tame your wild side," she teased lightly, yet there was a probing undercurrent in her tone. "Not tame," Enzo said, stepping closer. "She's more of a tornado." His smile was playful, but there was a steeliness beneath. He never did like feeling like a punchline. Tonja caught the edge of his tension, which only tightened her stomach. "And you, Enzo? Still solving crimes in that brooding way of yours?" Lila replied, every word a playful taunt crafted to provoke a reaction. Tonja felt the air shift, the kind of shift that heralds an impending storm. Their laughter rolled over Tonja like waves, but she felt shoved back into the shadows of her past, her once vibrant world now overshadowed by her complicated present. "It's been a whirlwind, for sure," Enzo replied, tension threading through his muscles as he glanced at Tonja. The weight of their unsaid emotions hung heavy in the air. "I can't believe how much you've changed, Tonja," Fiona said, searching her face for something. Approval, perhaps. "What happened to the aspiring star?" Tonja's smile felt like sandpaper against her emotions. "I grew up," she said quietly, clenching her jaw. Her eyes flicked to Enzo's, an unspoken plea embedded in the depths of her gaze. "Or maybe just grew into something better," Enzo offered. His words wrapped around her like a lifeline, momentarily diverting her stormy thoughts. He took a step forward, the electric tension between them amplifying, his body language clear. He was there, anchoring her amidst the chaos. "Or something more boring," Lila interjected, her voice cutting through the moment with a hint of laughter, dangling a challenge in the air that begged for light-hearted banter. Tonja felt the smile slip, a shadow hiding her deeper feelings. "Everyone has their paths," she said, fighting to maintain her poise. As she spoke, she felt Enzo's hand brush against the small of her back, grounding her even as the shadows of the past attempted to rear their heads. "Right, we're all so interesting now," Fiona replied, dealing the sharpest blow yet, her voice laced with envy. "Don't forget, Tonja, some of us are still waiting for you to know that you belong with the stars." Tonja half smiled, meeting Enzo's unwavering gaze. I think I'm okay with being a little less glamorous, she replied, hinting at the weight of her heart. The cafe's hum faded around them, leaving a silence that quivered with tension, all eyes on the unresolved longing between Tanja and Enzo. It was a boiling pot, ready to spill over. Only time would tell if they would be swept away together or pulled apart by the currents of their histories. Let's catch up properly, Tanja suggested, her eyes darting between the old flames of friendship and the new spark at her side. I have so much to say. Yet, even as she spoke, Tanja felt the electric currents of doubt flickering inside her. Where would this all lead? Would her path, once entwined with these old friends, ultimately clash or align with the unfolding journey beside Enzo? Scene 36. Suspicion and loyalty. The dimly lit warehouse hummed with the low drone of fluorescent lights, casting a sterile glow on the concrete floors. The air was thick with smoke from a half-burned incense stick resting in a corner. Tanja leaned against an old, rusty workbench, her posture radiating tension as she stared at the motley crew gathered before her. Enzo, standing resolutely beside her, scanned their faces, each revealed a flicker of uncertainty. Are we really going to ignore the fact that someone just dredged up the old frame job? Ishmael's voice echoed through the space, tinged with that mix of charisma and concern that both soothed and unsettled. The translucent veil of smoke swirled around him like a cloak. So what? You think it's one of us? Rosie chimed in, her brow furrowed. She crossed her arms, the hint of a challenge dancing in her gaze. The room held its breath, waiting for the answer. You're the one with a past in the criminal underground, Rosie, Eugene said, his sardonic smile radiating mischief as he nudged her playfully. The truth might set you free, but a little confession wouldn't hurt either. Shut up, Eugene, Ashley interjected, flicking Eugene's shoulder with a grin. Not everyone can trace their family tree back to a criminal mastermind. Some of us are just trying to. Survive? Tanja finished, stepping forward, her sharp gaze piercing the momentary laughter. That's what we're all doing here, right? Trying to stay one step ahead. A silence enveloped the room, thick enough to taste. It dripped with unspoken fears and thinly veiled accusations, threading through the openness like a shadow. She could feel Enzo beside her, his presence grounding, but she also sensed the tension in his shoulder as he shifted slightly, as if weighed down by the uncertainty in the air. Tanja, Ishmael broke through the silence, his tone transforming from challenging to earnest. This isn't just about someone trying to make you look bad. We're all at risk here. You know how deep the rot goes. Her heart raced, but not just from the accusations. I know the connections we've drawn, Ishmael, but this isn't helping. We have to stay united, not divided. Margaret, a recent recruit with auburn curls framing her face, nodded emphatically. Right, whoever it is might be testing us. We can't show our fractures. Fractures? Enzo's voice dropped, the weight of suspicion hanging heavily on each syllable. It feels more like a fault line about to split wide open. Tanja caught his eye, searching for reassurance, but found only the tumult of emotions mirrored back at her. Okay, let's focus instead on an action plan, something we all agree on. No plan will work if we can't trust each other. Ishmael snapped, lips pressed into a thin line, muscles tense like a coiled spring. We need to figure out who's feeding information to the enemy. The group murmured in agreement, but Tanja felt the underlying discord rumble softly beneath their words. A storm waiting to untangle. Maybe we start with a smaller circle, eh? Eugene quipped, breaking the tension with joviality. How about we tackle the who took the last donut mystery while we're at it? Frank, one of the older members, snorted. You and your donuts will be the end of us, Eugene. Laughter rippled through the room, providing a temporary retreat from the heavy air. But beneath the surface, the cracks widened. As the chatter settled, Tanja noticed Enzo had moved closer, the warmth from his shoulder brushing against hers. No matter what happens, he murmured, his breath warm and electrifying, just know I'm with you, Tanja. She felt a flutter in her chest, and all the trust and trepidation she carried danced alongside one another. I know, she whispered back, her voice low, charged. The moments stretched infinitely, their eyes locking, an unsaid promise hanging between them. Affection surged with unyielding tenacity, but the thick air of suspicion still loomed like a specter. Then let's find out who's behind this, she finally said, her voice steady, peeling off the veil of unknowing. The group nodded, determination washing over the initial uncertainty. But as they made plans, Tonja couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching them, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the moment to strike. Scene 37, the glimpse forward. Soft sunlight filtered through the window of Tonja Coleman's chic apartment, illuminating the carefully arranged chaos of household plants that only seemed to thrive under her careful attention. She stood in the kitchen, prepping lunch for herself and Enzo Arnau, her fervent partner in crime and the man who transformed her mundane moments into something akin to magic. The aroma of roasted garlic and herbs filled the air, hinting at warmth, comfort, and intimacy. As she stirred a pot of creamy risotto, the gentle bubbling sound seemed to stifle her thoughts, each pop a reminder of the myriad complexities of their world, of the conspiracy swirling just out of reach of her latest vision, and of the undeniable tension simmering between her and Enzo. Tonja turned at the sound of Enzo entering, his presence somehow grounding, yet always electrifying. He swept in with an easy confidence, his navy blue shirt slightly rumpled, a testament to their tumultuous lives, his dark hair falling just enough into his eyes to make them all the more intriguing. He leaned against the doorframe, observing her with that familiar intensity that made her heart race. "Smells incredible in here," he remarked, a teasing smirk tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Just trying to keep you well fed." Tonja shot back, her voice a playful lilt, though her stomach danced inexplicably at his gaze, since you refused to eat anything without red sauce on it. "Hey, I have diverse tastes," Enzo protested, stepping deeper into the warmth of the kitchen. "But if you're feeding my soul, I can handle the rest." The way he said soul sent an electric thrill coursing through her. She couldn't help but grin. Moments like these, where laughter and comfort enveloped them, felt like a cocoon from the world outside, a world full of violence and deceit. But then the memories of her last vision slammed into her mind. The scene of a late-night shootout in a deserted alley, the flash of a blade, gasping breaths. Everything faded away to the hum of the stovetop, and suddenly the house felt stifling. "Tonja?" Enzo's voice broke through her thoughts, tinged with concern. "You all right?" She met his eyes, the pool of deep brown offering a refuge, yet threatening to pull her into the depths of emotions she was still grappling with. "Yeah, just taking things one day at a time," she said, but her voice lacked its usual strength. The truth lingered on her tongue, but she swallowed it down. "Uh-huh, come here." With a welcoming gesture, he crossed the distance between them, his height looming but not intimidating. He brushed against her shoulder, the subtle warmth igniting something profound, something she couldn't ignore any longer. "When's the last time we took a break, you know?" Enzo asked softly, almost conspiratorially. "Just you and me?" The weight in Tonja's heart felt heavier still. Too long ago. "Let's change that. Right now." His proximity felt charged, the air crackling with unspoken words and possibilities. They were teetering on the edge, two souls dancing around the precipice of something that could shatter them both. Tonja leaned in closer, the space between them diminishing to a breath. "What did you have in mind?" she asked, tilting her head back, feeling strangely vulnerable yet strangely strong. Enzo's thumb grazed her cheek, and time slipped away. "Maybe just a quiet day with some good food, in good company," he breathed, leaning in, their foreheads almost touching. The heat between them became palpable, both magnetic and electric, pulling them closer, beyond friends, beyond partners. Though they were still afraid, there was a flicker of certainty in that moment, their breaths entwining into a rhythm that felt fated. And then it happened, the briefest of touches, a whisper, a spark, and their lips met. The kiss was gentle, soft yet insistent, awakening a passion that surged from their hearts. She could taste the garlic on his lips, sharp and familiar, mingling with the sweetness of the connection they fought so hard to define. Time stretched into eternity, each second an invitation to explore this new chapter of their lives. All that existed was the warmth of his body, the depth of that kiss, the world outside fading to black. As they broke apart, heavy breaths mingling in the soft silence, Enzo studied her with a fierce intensity. "Whatever comes next, we face together," he said, the solid promise of his words settling into her chest like a balm. "Together," she echoed. a future flashing through her mind just beyond what she could grasp. But it felt bright nonetheless. They were on the precipice of something extraordinary, and Tanja was finally ready to embrace it head on. Scene 38, Unearthing Betrayals. The rain fell in rhythmic sheets, drumming against the sleek, dark glass of the high-rise that housed Quantico's satellite offices. Each drop whispered of secrets swallowed by the city, a backdrop to the unearthing of buried truths. Inside, Tonja Coleman leaned against a cold metal filing cabinet in the break room, the scent of burnt coffee curling around her. She absent-mindedly tapped the printout of their latest evidence against the syndicate against her thigh, her mind racing. The documents felt deceptively ordinary, but held the weight of betrayal within them. Enzo Arnaud entered, his footsteps echoing through the cramped space as he shook droplets from his hair. "Looks like the storm's not letting up anytime soon," he said, running a hand through his damp curls. The soft edge of his voice was tinged with frustration. "Just like this investigation," Tonja replied, glancing out the window at the city blurred by rain. "We've got winds of change blowing, but we're stuck in the eye of the storm. Not if I can help it." Enzo stepped closer, the air between them thick with unresolved tension. "We have to act on what we found. Hiding this from the team isn't an option." "Right," she sighed, pinching the bridge of her nose, the remnants of past betrayals clawing at her resolve. "But what if we're wrong? What if it leads them straight to Ishmael? Or worse?" Enzo crossed his arms, his frustration rising. "This is bigger than either of us, Tonja. You can't keep letting your fears dictate our movements." His voice dropped slightly, softened by his resolve. "You can't put that on Ishmael when it's about the case." "That's exactly the point." Her voice rose, cutting through the simmering atmosphere. "I can't just worry about the case. I have to worry about him. You're not the only one affected here." Behind them, Rosie Santana appeared, her dark brows knit in concern. "What's happening? You two look like you're about to take the case to trial in here." "Just a little disagreement about our next move," Tonja deflected, her heart pounding as she struggled to maintain her composure. Rosie placed a hand on Tonja's shoulder, feeling the tremor of tension. "Look, can't we just review the findings together? Maybe we missed something." Before Tonja could respond, a loud crash echoed through the hallway, drawing their attention. An argument erupted nearby, the voices rising in pitch. "I knew you were a liar from the get-go, Philip," a woman's voice cried out from the conference room. "Liar? How did I lie? You wouldn't know the truth if it knocked on your door." Philip's voice reverberated, thick with indignation. Curiosity piqued, the trio crept toward the door, where a fracas erupted between Philip and Mariah, another agent known for her sharp tongue. "You pushed us into this," Mariah shouted, throwing a stack of documents onto the table. "You are not just a messenger, you're part of this web." Tonja glanced at Enzo, whose jaw tightened, a flash of jealousy slicing through him as he witnessed the fiery exchange. "We have to intervene," he said quietly, a mix of concern and the need to protect Tonja swelling in his chest. But before they could act, Mariah grabbed a photo off the table and waved it in Philip's face. "This shows your whole involvement. I trusted you." "And I trusted you to keep your mouth shut," he shot back, the accusation heavy in the air. "This isn't just about us." In the midst of that chaos, Tonja felt a stirring, her senses igniting. What if this was more than a simple argument? What if hidden alliances and betrayals were unraveling right here? Just as she turned toward Enzo, ready to voice her thoughts, his eyes caught hers in a flurry of emotions. Fear, desperation, and something deeper sent chills of intensity through her. "Tonja," he murmured, taking a step closer, his voice almost lost in the fray behind them. "Whatever happens, we navigate this together." The room seemed to shrink, swallowing the outside noise, leaving just the two of them suspended in a moment where the world faded into meaningless chaos. Their hearts beat in synchrony as the storm outside raged on, mirroring their stifled emotions. "Together," she echoed, the weight of everything crashing around them. Embracing the uncharted territory of both the case and their relationship, she reached out, brushing her fingers against his. For that fleeting second, the chaos outside, both literal and figurative, faded as they stood on the precipice of undeniable connection. But they had work to do. The storm would not relent. Neither would they. Scene 39, a sinister offer. The evening sky over Kingston glowed in shades of indigo, the city studded with the soft luminescence of streetlights and neon signs. Tonja Coleman adjusted the collar of her sleek leather jacket, her pulse quickening as she approached the warehouse, an unmarked structure that reeked of danger and temptation. The scent of oil and rust hung in the air, a gritty reminder of the underbelly she had fought so hard to expose. She was here to confront an old adversary, one with connections that tingled at the edges of her memory like a forgotten touch. A low hum of excitement sizzled beneath her skin. She could hear the city's heartbeat, the muffled sounds of late-night revelers spilling into the streets. But as she crossed the threshold, a heavy silence enveloped her, sending goosebumps crawling down her arms. It was an unnatural quiet, the kind that preceded a storm. Inside, dim light flickered overhead, illuminating rows of crates piled high as if they held the weight of the city's secrets. Tonja's breath steadied as she focused on the task ahead. She wasn't just a detective. She was a force, sharpened by past heartbreaks and a relentless drive for justice. "Ah, the detective arrives," came a smooth voice, sinister yet oddly charming. Ishmael Devereaux leaned casually against a pillar, shadows dancing on his sharp features. His dark eyes assessed her, and in that gaze lay an unfamiliar weight, one that dragged heavily at the corners of her heart. "I didn't expect you to come alone." "I never play by the rules, Ishmael," she replied, her voice unwavering, though the tension wrapped around her like a tight coil. "You know that." He stepped closer, the air between them crackling. "Good, because I have an offer that could change everything." Tonja narrowed her eyes, feeling a mixture of wariness and intrigue. "What do you want?" "I have information about your family, Tonja, something buried deep that connects them to the syndicate you've been hunting." His words hung in the air, heavy and loaded with implication. "Join me, and I can help you uncover the truth." "Your version of the truth, right?" she shot back. "What's the catch?" Ishmael's lips curled into a half smile, a calculated warmth in his expression. "No catch, just a partnership." He extended his hand, palm up, revealing a silver pendant that glinted in the low light. "With this, I can guide you to the answers you seek. It represents everything, your family's legacy, their ties. But it comes at a price. You would have to trust me, completely." A pulse of uncertainty flickered through Tonja as she gazed at the pendant, the intricate design igniting old memories she had tried to bury. But she couldn't help but recall the warmth of her mother's voice, whispering tales of strength and resilience, all now shrouded in shadows. "And why should I trust you, Ishmael? You've done nothing but pull me into chaos." He straightened, his demeanor shifting from devil-may-care to dangerously serious. "Because, Tonja, I know chaos better than anyone. I can help you uncover the truth about your family, but you have to let me in." The intensity of his gaze softening for a beat, revealing an undercurrent of unspoken connection that sparked between them like a live wire. Tonja took a deep breath, trying to shake the poignant pull of his words. "And what do you get out of this?" "Redemption, perhaps," he said, his voice a low murmur that resonated like a promise. "Or maybe it's just that I can no longer stand the thought of you facing the darkness alone. This is my way of atonement." The silence stretched, taut and pregnant with possibility. Suddenly, a distant crash echoed through the warehouse, shattering the momentary connection like glass. Tonja's instincts kicked in, adrenaline surging as she shifted her focus to the dark recesses of the room, instincts poised for confrontation. "Showtime," Ishmael said, his tone shifting back to one of urgency. "We might not have much time." As they positioned themselves side by side, scanning the gloom, Tonja felt the weight of their choices, of her family's legacy entwining dangerously with her current reality. Every second mattered, every heartbeat a tether to the past, present and future colliding in an explosive spiral of longing and danger. "Let's move," she commanded, her resolve hardening. But as they stepped forward into the awaiting shadows, Tonja couldn't shake the feeling that the path ahead was as treacherous as the one that had brought her here. The true danger wasn't just the looming threat of the syndicate, but the growing connection with Ishmael, the ghosts of their pasts whispering promises and warnings. Scene 40, the choice of sacrifice. In the dim light of the abandoned warehouse, shadows danced on the crumbling walls, their flickers echoing the turmoil within Tonja Coleman. She leaned against a rusted steel beam, her heart pounding in tandem with the distant sounds of sirens. The acrid scent of stale oil, mixed with the sweat on her brow, the air thick with the weight of decisions waiting to be made. Doubt clawed at her. Was loyalty to her partner worth the potential betrayal of another's trust? Enzo Arnaud's voice pulled her from her cloud of uncertainty. We can't go back, Tonja. Not after all this. Tonja turned to meet his stormy gaze, the blue like the depths of the ocean tinged with uncertainty. You think I don't know that? If we go through with this plan, we might lose everything, including, her voice caught, including each other. The tension between them shimmered, palpable, sweeping away the remnants of doubt. Enzo stepped closer, his hands finding her arms, strong but gentle, grounding her. You can't protect everyone, not even yourself. But what if we're wrong? She whispered, searching his eyes for answers she knew only lived inside her chaotic mind. I've never known you to be wrong about anything, he countered, a small smirk lighting his features, yet the flicker of seriousness pierced through. But we both know what's at stake. The warehouse creaked, its age making itself known, but inside, Tonja felt a different kind of decay, a disintegration of the moral safety nets she had long upheld. Just then, a sudden rush of wind sent dust swirling around them, amplifying the thunderous pulse of her thoughts into a clarity she feared. Before she could speak, a voice echoed through the emptiness, depriving her of the moment. Well, isn't this cozy? The brave detective and her charming partner enjoying their little rendezvous. Ishmael Devereaux emerged from the shadows, a figure cloaked in layers of charisma shrouded in chaos. His dark eyes gleamed with mischief, yet beneath it lay a hint of vulnerability. Didn't expect the welcome party, Tonja replied, crossing her arms defensively. Came to check on my favorite heroes, he said, a teasing lilt to his words. Or were you busy plotting world domination? What do you want, Ishmael? Enzo demanded, tension coiling in the air like a taut wire. A few clarifications, Ishmael replied, his tone light, but the ambiance thickened. You've both got a decision to make. Trust can be a slippery thing. His piercing gaze ripped through her defenses, catching her off guard, especially when it's been fractured by secrets, Tonja. What's that supposed to mean? Enzo challenged, his protective instincts flaring. Tonja felt heat rising within her, defiance intermingled with something darker fear. Suddenly, she was caught in the undertow of Ishmael's intent. You should know, Ishmael. I'm not some pawn in your game, she asserted, voice steadying. Get to the point. With a heavy sigh, Ishmael stepped closer. You're right, Tonja, but the truth is, betrayal surrounds you. His voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. And you're closer to it than you think. A stillness enveloped them, and the hum of tension vibrating off the walls, and for a moment, an unexpected vulnerability swept over Ishmael. I saw a vision, a glimpse of our past, he confessed, the bravado thinning. And your visions mean nothing to me, Tonja interrupted, though uncertainty laced her words. Then let's turn this around, he proposed, stepping closer. Trust me, or walk away entirely. Just the two of you. Leave me out of this mess. Tonja's heart raced. She felt the weight of their choices pressing against her. Behind the urgency, fireworks of chemistry flickered between herself and Ishmael, blurring the focus. Enzo's heat radiated close enough to nearly distract her completely. Together, she murmured, catching the subtle way Enzo relaxed at her side, fear slipping away, replaced by the loyalty they bore towards one another. But if we do this, we do it my way, because I won't lose anyone else. The air felt charged, an electric moment pungent with unspoken promises and restrained passions. In that fraught silence, Tonja leaned into Enzo, their foreheads touching ever so gently, hearts beating in a syncopated rhythm, the world narrowing down to the two of them. Love is messy, but it's worth it, Enzo finally said, and she felt the truth of it resonate, illuminating their decision like a flash of lightning streaking across unforgiving skies. Yes, she agreed softly, determination settling within her. The choices before them loomed large, but in this moment of intimacy, she felt the bittersweet pang of sacrifice looming ahead, binding them together in an unbreakable way. Scene 41. Fury of revelation. The fluorescent lights flickered ominously overhead in the cramped dimness of the precinct break room, casting uneven shadows across the walls. Tonja leaned against the counter, arms crossed tightly over her chest, the surface cold beneath her fingertips. She stared out the window, where the city's skyline loomed like a jagged challenge against the dusk. Why didn't you tell me? Enzo's voice was low, tinged with urgency as he stepped closer, the air between them thick with tension. Tonja turned to him, a flash of heat igniting her cheeks, but her expression remained steely. Because I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to believe any of it was connected until it was too late. Enzo shifted slightly, his brow furrowing as he searched her face. Too late for what, Tonja? For me to protect you? For you to protect yourself? Her shoulders tightened, compressing an urgency that felt almost maternal. You have no idea what I've seen, what I've felt. Tonja's voice shook, though she fought against it. Images of pain and betrayal flickered like a reel of film behind her eyes, the shadows of crime scenes, the deathless whispers of victims begging for justice. Silence settled heavily, filled with unspoken words and the electric charge of their proximity. The whir of the overhead fan created a rhythmic backdrop that heightened the quiet. She could feel the heat radiating from him, both comforting and disconcerting. Tell me then. Enzo stepped forward, closing the distance, intent on breaking through the walls she had built. Because I'll chase this syndicate to the ends of the earth if it keeps you safe. But at what cost, Enzo? The question hung in the air as she fought the vulnerability creeping up her throat. Do you understand what you're asking? His gaze bore into hers, intense and unwavering. I will do what it takes, even at the risk of losing you. The weight of his words washed over Tonja like a sudden deluge, flooding her heart with a tumult of emotions. You don't get to say that when you don't know what losing me feels like. A tense pause encased them, her breath quickening as she dared to allow herself to feel that connection threading between them.